In this video, I'm going to review the details of the Intuiface Partner Program for value-added resellers. It's an opportunity for me to share the details of our program and hopefully convince you it's would be in your interest to join us. I think it's best to start that discussion by broadly thinking about what makes a good partner program. Hopefully, you'll agree. So, what would a good partner program enable you to do? First, it should enable you to grow your business, right? The software and the relationship should give you the ability to scale, to take on more work, to grow the size of individual projects, take on more projects, that sort of thing. If it's just about continuing what you're doing today, what's the advantage, right? It should also enable you to stay agile. Starting from proof of concept all the way through to deployment, you want to make sure you can adapt to changing requirements and changing needs of your client, maybe even change timelines, maybe even constrained timelines where you have to speed things up or cut things out. You want to make sure you can stay agile, particularly if you're scaling, right? You don't want to scale and lose agility, so they really both need to happen at the same time, and a good partner program should enable you to do that. The program should also deliver to you the skill set and the tools that will enable you to eliminate the need for coding skills. Now, maybe you're not eliminating it entirely, but certainly vastly reducing your dependency on bespoke development. This would enable you to minimize developer staff, if nothing else, maybe not having to grow who you already have, and scale their contribution. You are more agile, you have more projects, maybe you're still doing some development, but much less per project, so you can use the same personnel for far more work. Finally, a good program should enable you to build trust with customers. Okay? You want to have a healthy relationship. They view you as a consultant, not just somebody providing a service, where they trust that you're doing good by them and that you're going to enable them to make the right decisions. A good program would give you the skills and the tools to do that. A lot of this is about delivering insight about their business. It's linked to the notion of analytics. I'm going to get back to that point in a moment, but certainly broadly, the better a program enables you to build trust, the healthier your relationship, the more likely they're going to come back and maybe even grow their business with you. So that's what a good program enables you to do. We believe the Intuiface program for value-added resellers will provide this to you. So let's assume it does. What ultimately is in it for you? Well, we think it will enable you to differentiate yourself. I don't know where you are on the spectrum in terms of already delivering interactive content. Maybe you're doing nothing. Maybe you're doing only touch. Maybe you're dabbling in beacon technology, RFID, voice, camera, the Internet of Things. I don't know where you are, but wherever you are, you're going to do a heck of a lot more. And that will enable you to differentiate yourself versus all those other agencies who may even have the skills because they have developers, but they can't scale, they're not agile, and they're more costly. You will significantly differentiate yourself, we believe, by adopting Intuiface and becoming one of our partners. Because you have all of these skills, and because you're able to put these skills to work using a tool set that really reduces the amount of person hours, the timeline, the level of work per project, you're going to generate far more perceived value than your competitors. Your client asks you for X, you deliver X plus Y, you're delivering more than they want, but you're using Intuiface, so your cost is lower than just delivering X. So you're charging a certain amount that equals or exceeds your typical profit margin, but it's still below what you used to charge and below what your competitors charge. It is vastly more perceived value. And who doesn't want that? Because of the analytics capability built into Intuiface, going back to the trust point I mentioned earlier, because Intuiface will enable you to adopt analytics and reporting, you can build that trust by generating the charts and dashboards that ultimately lead to business insight. You're proving to the client that the project is a success. You're showing the client the return on their investment. They don't just have to trust you or cross their fingers that it's working. No, you're going out of your way to show them how well it's working. And by the way, if it's not working, you've got that data too. And that still leads to a healthy relationship. Intuiface makes this possible. And then finally, of course, because of this agility, because of this scale, because even for simple concepts like prototyping, which is so simple in Intuiface, not only will you be able to respond to more RFPs, but you'll be able to do so in a very aggressive manner, right? You might even be able to quickly put together prototypes, live interactive prototypes based on prospect needs, while your competitors are just still filling out an Excel spreadsheet responding to the proposal request. It's amazing what you can do once you build your skill set with IntuiFace and get comfortable using it in projects both pre and post sales. So I hope that's pretty convincing. We have lots of partners already who have bought into this idea and are seeing the benefits. Now what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the platform. I did talk about it in the previous video, but just a bit of a refresher. Here's an overview. So on the left you have Composer. That's the editor. It's the tool you'll use to create your interactive content. Notice it does only run on Windows. So if you want to use a Mac, you can, but you first have to install Boot Camp or virtualization software like Parallels, because you have to run Windows on that Mac. And about 15% of our install base does, but most people on Windows. So you're building your experiences in Composer on Windows, and then on the right, you're running your experiences in the runtime, which we call Player. You build in Composer, you run in Player, but Player isn't just Windows. Player is all 6 of these operating systems: Windows, Android, iOS on the iPad, not the iPhone, but the iPad, Chrome, Tizen on the Samsung Smart Signage platform, and WebOS on the LG Smart Display. You don't have to know anything about those OSs. You don't need any sysadmin skill sets. Player looks the same. It acts the same. When you're in Composer, you don't have to worry about it. It's seamless. And this applies to any type of interactivity we support, like the ones I mentioned before, from voice and beacons and sensors and everything else. It all works out of the box. You don't need to know anything special about these platforms. Isn't that nice? So you could be deploying to one device, could be a million. All it comes down to is Player. Now we have an infrastructure in the cloud. That's the thing up top. We do have a cloud-based infrastructure that makes available to you additional capability, either gives you additional flexibility or maybe just additional features you can offer your clients. You don't have to do this. In fact, IntuiFace does run offline. It's not a browser-based tool. It's a standalone application. Player runs by itself. So you don't have to be in an online environment. It can be an offline air-gapped environment. But no surprise, if you're online, there's more stuff you can do. So for example, if you were to publish an experience into the cloud, putting a copy of your experience in the cloud, you can then share it for the purposes of collaboration and previewing for your clients. So maybe you have other people editing work. Maybe you want to show an early alpha or beta of a project with a client. We can facilitate sharing using some capability we have hosted in the cloud. The same thing goes for deployment. So deployment, in fact, is remote deployment, which means you are remotely deploying experiences to players anywhere in the world. You don't have to be in the same room, the same building, the same city, the same country. You can be anywhere in the world, and with our cloud-based infrastructure, it's accessible through the web. You can do remote deployment, which is a classic signage capability, and it's easily achieved out of the box with IntuiFace. Also in the cloud is our analytics capability. This guy right here. So you can imagine all of your players are independently, each individual player is collecting data, right? They're all running their own instance of an experience, could be different experiences, and they're all collecting data. And that data is being uploaded. It's all coming up from all the players to the cloud. We call it the data hub. The analytics data hub is taking all of this data that you defined for all the events you care about. It's taking all this data, collating it, and making it ready for analysis. Under the same IntuiFace umbrella, within IntuiFace Analytics, you can build your own charts and dashboards. Out-of-the-box chart generator, over 30 different kinds of charts, tons of customization options, and you can take all those charts to make a set of any number of dashboards for any number of audiences that can be published to the web or shared in different ways. All of this can be done using IntuiFace. A lot of you are not analytics experts. You must understand the value of measuring to find out what's working, what's not working, what are the high traffic locations, the most popular products, are they influenced by any context like the weather or what have you. All of this is achievable with IntuiFace under our umbrella. You can forward data. You don't have to use our charts and dashboards feature. You can work with third-party applications if you prefer for analysis. So this top two-thirds is about sort of the infrastructure we provide. You notice you're taking your own content and importing it, your own images, videos, and documents. But the bottom third is saying you don't have to be using static content. You don't have to know up front what you're going to display or whether or not there's particular business logic you're going to incorporate. This bottom third represents your ability to interface with any third-party infrastructure, any cloud accessible data source, business logic, or device. If it has an API, we can talk to it. And in fact, Intuiface API Explorer, here in the bottom left, Intuiface API Explorer automates the integration with third-party web APIs. You don't have to know what a web API is, and you can integrate your experience with that web API. That means reading from it or writing to it, getting information from the cloud, which ultimately enables you to personalize those interactive experiences. And nothing makes experiences more sticky and to make conversion more common than to personalize. And ultimately, you personalize by being able to access information in real time from the cloud relevant to that interaction. And thus, the Intuiface ability to communicate with the cloud is just super important, and we can do that out of the box. This also applies to .NET DLLs and to JavaScript applications, so it's not just about web APIs, but there's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of web APIs out there today. Everything from restaurant reservations and sports scores to, some proprietary back office system, with a web wrapper. I mean, any of these things can be accessed in real time from your experience. Of course, this applies at design time as well as at runtime. No surprise. All of this falls underneath the Intuiface platform, part of our ecosystem of products. The way licensing works is pretty simple. We're not a services business. That's your job. We want you to deliver the services. We just want to deliver you the software and support our software. So our licensing model is really simple. There's the editor, composer, the runtime, player, and analytics for analysis, charts, and dashboards. That's the only things you have to worry about are the licenses. Composer is a per concurrent user license. What that means is the following. A license can only be on one device at a time, but you can move it as often as you wish. So if I have 5 people who want to use Composer, but never more than 3 at a time, I only need 3 licenses, and I can move those licenses around my 5 machines. There are 3 paid tiers of Composer. The bottom line is that normally if you're going to do remote deployment, you're going to need the highest tier, which is Enterprise. So pretty simple. If you need to do remote deployment, which most of you are going to do, you need the Enterprise tier for Composer, but there is also Essential and Premier if you're not doing remote deployment. For player, there's just one player. That's it. The only thing you need to worry about is number of screens. Okay. There are some volume discounts. So of course, if you have lots of screens, it's lots of players. There would be a volume discount. But fundamentally, all you need to do is count the number of screens, and now you have an idea of what your player requirements are. Exclusively to value-added resellers, we have something called a non-interactive player. So the interactive player is a player everybody gets. It does everything. Everything Intuiface does, you can do with the interactive player. The non-interactive player is exclusive just to value-added resellers, members of our program. It essentially strips out all the interactive stuff, enabling you to deliver traditional non-interactive signage at a lower cost. So the non-interactive player is half the price, stripped of interactivity. But you can deliver any kind of traditional signage with the non-interactive player. Of course, you can have both kinds of players. It's almost inevitable that you will. But exclusive to you guys, we recognize that some projects are purely non-interactive, and we think it makes much more sense for you to use one platform to address both non-interactive and interactive than 2 separate platforms. So we offer 2 different kinds of players. Finally, analytics. You don't have to do it. For sure you're using Composer. For sure you're using Player. You don't have to do analytics, but forgive me, you're nuts not to, because of no other reason. It's another service you can sell your clients. So there's a services opportunity for you there. But let's be honest, it also helps you have a much more productive pilot phase where you're collecting data to learn how effective your pilot a project is, and then of course in real time in an active deployment, collecting data, building those charts and dashboards so that you and your client can gain some actionable business insight and improve that deployment and learn something from it. So you're probably going to do it. And if you do, your basic decision is about, well, how many players? It's pretty simple. There's two tiers, basic and ultimate. Basic is up to 20 players. Ultimate is unlimited players. It's always unlimited data. It's always unlimited charts. It's always unlimited dashboards. The only difference between basic and ultimate is the number of players. Basic is up to 20. Anything above 20 would be ultimate. You can always upgrade if you're ready. That's up to you. You know, that's it. That's how simple it is. And the beauty, it's predictable. You know exactly what it's going to cost. There's nothing variable here. We're not going to be changing services rates on you or asking you to pay us additional to do some kind of work. Nope. Pure license fees, very predictable, easy for you to budget, and you're sharing these costs across all of your clients. It's not a per client expense. Certainly for Composer and Analytics, it's not a per client expense. Your composers can be used for any number of clients. Your analytics capability can be spread across any number of clients. They're independent of that. Certainly player, well, for each additional customer, that might add additional players, but with your volume discount, you're going to get benefits from rolling them all together, right? So there's the platform, a little bit about the program itself. You must be interested to see this, right? So we have 4 levels of partnership. They start at platinum, they then go through gold, silver, and bronze. What does the level choice depend on? 2 things. The first is your volume commitment for new annual player sales during the contract year, not renewals, new license sales. How many will you commit to? I'll show you that in a moment. So that's requirement number 1. Requirement number 2, there is a VAR program fee. I'll show you that as well. It's not a lot of money. You're going to make it back, but this is sort of our way of just ensuring that you're committed to being a good steward of our product and a good representative of our brand. So here's the program details. You can see the 4 levels at the very top of your screen. These dark blue bars illustrate your requirements. So this row right here shows you your commitment to new annual player license sales. What is your commitment from bronze through platinum? The second row represents your requirement to talk about us on your website. We're not meant to be a state secret. We think it's important that you identify on your website that you're an IntuiFace partner. This is a rising tide that will float both of our boats. We're driving traffic to you, and we want to make sure that you're also promoting your use of us so we can help each other. If you look at the very bottom of this slide, you can see the fee per tier. So for example, it's $1,500 annually for the bronze tier. For sure, when you see all the partner benefits, you're making this money back. Again, the fee exists just to make sure you'll be good stewards and represent us well in the marketplace. So what are those benefits? Well, first of all, you're getting an additional discount over and above any volume discounts we provide normally. So there's an additional kicker. Your tier and volume determines what that benefit could be. Could be up to a 30% additional discount, which is going to be a lot of saved money. We will also provide you a set of licenses for free, not for resale licenses that you can use for internal purposes only. It's not meant to be deployed to a client. So up to 5 composer licenses, up to 10 player licenses, and an analytics plan. All, that varies depending on your tier, but also you can do your work internally. Your clients, should be a different set of licenses, but these would be for your own use, saving a ton of money there. We will also provide additional player licenses for any validated trade show use. So it's your trade show booth, not a client's, it's yours. But if you're going to a trade show and you're going to show off your wares, we're happy to give you additional player licenses for that use. We'll provide you with prioritized technical support. You'll have essentially hotline access to our experts if you have any issues. We'll provide you with technical consulting, so dedicated assistance for troubleshooting or brainstorming on projects you're working on. We will, for the 3 highest tiers, deliver some co-marketing activities. We'll do webinars together, maybe some emailing, certainly around social media, to talk about each other, get our name out there. And across all levels, You'll have presence on our website. There'll be a company page. People will be able to sort by geography, for example. But this way, people anywhere in the world can find your company, see what kind of services you provide, and get in touch with you, and hopefully want to do some work with you. So those are the details in a nutshell. Certainly, if you speak with members of our sales organization and the partner team, they can go much deeper on these things. Which brings me to this. If you have any interest in getting started and going deeper and speaking with somebody about possibly becoming a member, please contact us at partnerprogram@intuiface.com. You'll hear from us very shortly. We'd love to talk about what we've seen with other value-added resellers, members already in our program. Hopefully we can bring you the same benefits we've brought them, and hopefully we can together really pump some energy into this interactive content creation and delivery business. We think it's the beginning of just great things. Thanks for watching, everybody.